So Texas Tech fans defended their honor fiercely, fervently, and now, as we've come to find out, rightfully, after the accusations from Lance Leipold that a pocket knife was thrown from the stands among a bevy of tortillas. Lance Leipold's taken a big L here, and it's not even just the $25,000 that Kansas was fined for all of this. The plot has thickened big time. The plot has thickened big time. Okay? So for those of you who are perhaps not that online, in which case, congratulations, or maybe have just forgotten since this happened on Saturday, Texas Tech beats Kansas, right? And after the game, a game in which Texas Tech, by the way, had 30 yards in penalties because of things being thrown onto the field, Lance Leipold had a with Joey McGuire.
You want me to do something about it? I just heard. I know. And I said I got it. Coach, you.
Yeah. Pretty fiery confrontation between the two there. Lance Leipold very upset, not just about tortillas, as we would come to find out in the post game, but also about a pocket knife that he said was thrown onto the field. Okay. Actually let that fly in the post game press conference. And that had Tech fans apoplectic. And look, my stance at the time was pretty middle of the road. Like, hey, I get why Texas Tech fans are reacting that way because there is a long history of other fan bases, coaches, teams, etc., accusing Tech fans of throwing different items that has never really been proven. And, you know, after a while, you start to develop a reputation and that breeds more of that, right? Like more people making accusations like that. However, I said on the other side, like if a pocket knife really was thrown, I would certainly be upset about it too. If I were a Kansas fan, my stance the whole time has been I would rather my coach not be making that the story after the game. Instead, the story that like we've got to get better because we got punked pretty good in the game. But I also was like, look, it seems like a very weird thing to make up. Like how and why would you make up a pocket knife without any proof of it or whatever? That seems like a very bizarre story to be telling. Well, I think we now have all the answers. Like we now understand how exactly this happened. And it's pretty insane, man. It's pretty insane. Okay. So the Big 12 conducts an investigation. They released a statement earlier today that said, hey, both sides are fined $25,000. Texas Tech's fine is for repeated instances of objects being thrown onto the playing surface. So it's the tortillas, right? Well, Kansas, this is the Big 12's wording, Kansas has been fined for disparaging comments about the conference and a member institution and an inaccurate statement regarding a pocket knife by head coach Lance Leipold. At the beginning of the year, who had that on your bingo card? That would come out in an official release from the Big 12. An official statement, or an inaccurate statement, rather, regarding a pocket knife by head coach Lance Leipold. All right, so that was part one of the result that we got today. Then our guy, Don Williams, went to work. Now, Don Williams has been doing this for a long time at the Lubbock Avalanche Journal. He's an excellent journalist. I read his work regularly. I really appreciate and enjoy him. He files a freedom, like FOIA's this thing, Freedom of Information Act or whatever, open records request to get the video and the back and forth between Tech and the conference that have been going on here. And, you know, wouldn't you know, Texas Tech released that pretty quick. Sometimes you do that, and universities will drag their feet and wait a really long time to release it. Interestingly, Texas Tech was pretty eager to get that out there. So Don Williams gets the video of it, and he writes a story that says, new video released by Texas Tech shows a Kansas football player pick up an object from a spot on the sideline after a Jayhawks staff member had possibly just dropped an object at the same spot. The object is a closed pocket knife. There's no disagreement on that. Okay, so it says Tech athletic officials who reviewed the video circled the unidentified Kansas staff member and illustrated with two arrows that his right hand moved away from his pants pocket, and he purportedly dropped something as he proceeded up the sideline. His actions are shown in ground level and high angle video. All right. And I went and watched that video, and it's tough to see a whole lot going on there. Then David Collier, who had that initial video of the confrontation, another guy who I think does a great job, he pops out like a different angle. All right. So what we have here, what I'm about to show you, you guys be prepared for this. This is the Zapruder film. This is the Lubbock Zapruder film that you are about to see of the Kansas staffer on the sideline, maybe dropping, maybe not dropping, whatever you want to believe, a pocket knife that was then later picked up by a Kansas player that was then taken to officials, and they got a 15-yard penalty out of this whole deal, okay? So here you go. Start it over for you. You'll see you see that pop up. I don't know how well you guys are even going to be able to see it through this. I understand. It's crazy. We're all looking at this. But if you do look closely at this, I wonder if I do this for you. How's that going to look through the illustration? There you go. If you look closely at this, I mean, it does. This angle, I feel like, is tougher to see. All right. But if you go to this angle, you can see a hand moving out of a pocket, and it looks like some object comes out of it pretty quickly. Okay. I'll let you guys be the judge. All right. I appreciate the way that Don was going about describing it, being very journalistic in that. It's so grainy. You can't tell for sure. But from the high angle video, you then immediately see a Kansas player walk over a few seconds later and like pick it up and hand it to somebody. Boy. Okay. This was looking bad enough, I thought, for Kansas before that video even came out. Because before the video came out, it was like, all right, Lance Leipold got a little too heated, made an accusation without any like real tangible proof. Maybe they got something wrong on how it happened. You're just kind of like, all right, that was a guy being too heated, lost his cool. Not a great look, but it is what it is. You get fined, move on. Well, now that the video's out there, it certainly leaves you wide open to speculation that this was some kind of planted object from Kansas to try and do this on purpose, which is insane if that's true. Now, again, I'm not saying it is or it isn't. You can be the determinant of that based on the evidence that we have here. I'm showing you the evidence that we have. I think Texas Tech certainly seems to believe that. I believe from the open records request stuff, it was like Kirby Hocutt was certainly insinuating that. Or at least just, hey, it was dropped here by a Kansas staffer. Maybe it's a guy just getting heavy in his pocket. He wanted to drop the pocket knife on the ground. I have no idea. What I can't fathom is that anybody on a coaching staff, like you got to be smart, man. You got to be sharp to get and stick on a college football, like Power 4 coaching staff. How anybody would think that trying to pull something like that on purpose would be, one, even all that helpful. Like, okay, if it's a 15-yard penalty, you're like, all right, in a game that you wound up losing by 4 scores or 3, was it 24 points? Either way, you lose by multiple scores. Like 15 yards was going to be the difference. And then what's your risk reward calculation there? Even if it does help you, what's the risk reward on this, man? I mean, the risk is what happened, which is just a horrible look for the program. So I don't understand how that could, that's why I tread lightly and carefully on making like straight up accusations of like, oh, that was planted on purpose, because I'm like, surely nobody is that dumb to try and do that, right? Like, surely. I'm going to give a little bit of benefit of the doubt there, but I am just showing you what we have, my friends. I'm showing you what we have. And either way, it is a terrible look for Kansas now in all of this. Lance Leipold, I mean, the statements that Kansas put out, I will say, I think struck the right tone, but this was before the video came out. Kansas, Leipold said, I accept their findings and ultimate rulings. I had an emotional reaction in the aftermath of the game and acknowledged that I need to be better. We're excited to move forward and finish our season strong. Travis Goff, the AD, said the circumstances were unfortunate. We take ownership of our emotionally charged response. Coach Leipold should not have addressed the matter publicly. That should have been handled privately with the conference and Texas Tech and not in the heat of the moment when we didn't have all the facts. I think those are both really good, kind of pitch perfect responses before we had the video. But now the video's out there and it's like raising even more questions for people. You're going to take more heat. I'm pretty stunned, man. I have a lot of respect for Lance Leipold as a football coach, man. I mean, say what you want, and I know even Kansas fans, I think, have some frustration right now about like, hey, what's our ceiling? Okay, clearly he's a good coach, but like, are we ever going to elevate beyond where we're at? I understand that that's sort of the prevailing narrative with Kansas fans right now. look, the guy, how easy you forget. I understand fan bases do this, but how easy you forget where this thing was just like 4 years ago. Okay. Like the guy's a very good coach. I've got a ton of respect for him, but the whole thing, how it unfolded before we even saw the video. And now the video's like really making me question like what really was going on here. It's insane. And the biggest thing, God, I haven't even talked about really the main point in all of this is very unfair to Texas Tech. And this is why Tech fans reacted as strongly as they did, and why I was the whole time trying to tread pretty carefully and lightly on this, because I'm like, I get it, Tech fans. Like, people, I've seen you be accused of the batteries and stuff before. You guys were all telling me this story of what, like the poop bus or something from Texas A&M in like 2011. Like, I've seen the stories and just like seen some of it happen in front of my own eyes of you guys getting accused of stuff. And like, I get how you're just like, look, hey, we may be a really intense fan base and student section, and like, you know, we may be a little rough around the edges in some place, but we're not trying to throw batteries at your face. We're not trying to fling a knife at you from the stands. Like, stop with this. It gives us a bad reputation that we don't deserve. And that is totally true. Like, this is the type of thing that easily cements reputations for people, and it's totally unfair. So like, that's why, I mean, yeah, that's why Tech fans reacted as strongly as they did. And now I'm like, you guys not only had every right to, maybe you didn't react strongly enough. You know, maybe the conference didn't react strongly enough. They have seen the video. I mean, I guess I'll put it like that. The conference has seen the video, and they decided to just fine both sides $25K. I think a part of this is like, yeah, you know, how do you prove that this was some ultimately like set up thing and Kansas was trying to do that? Not getting access to, I don't know if you're getting access to phones or what. Like, you're not going to probably be able to prove that. But I do understand some people being like, Kansas maybe a little bit lucky that it was only just a $25K fine. And they kind of just, you know, there's a sort of like two guys fighting at the end of a play, and they just throw a flag on both dudes and say, look, whatever, this is kind of a mess. You guys both need to chill out. We'll just offsetting penalties or whatever. That's basically what happened here. It does seem like Kansas was pretty fortunate that was all that happened out of this. So, and hey, I like this. You know, I sort of articulated this, but I wanted to give a shout out to Lux Wade on Twitter, who put it this way, and I think this is pretty apropos. Just said, let's see, we're tired about lies about our fans. The list is exhaustive. Yes, our student section is hostile. Yes, we throw tortillas out of spite. Yes, we chant curse words. We don't throw batteries. We don't destroy buses. We don't throw knives. We don't throw vapes. Wow, where'd the vape accusation come from? We don't throw frozen water bottles. I totally get that. Totally get that. Fair gripe for Texas Tech fans. You guys won this battle emphatically. So, you know, I suppose congratulations on that. This is, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing for Leipold and Kansas that they have a bye week this week. If that will allow them to just kind of duck and cover, or if it puts more speculation or gives more of a tail to the story, I don't know. I do know Texas Tech has a big game to play this week, though. So they will probably, in a lot of ways, I would think the staff be excited to just move past this story. But crazy, man. Insane. I could not believe that when we got hit with the video today.